Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So as you guys can see by the title of this video, this is just more of like a chill, chatty kind of life updates video. I just wanted to keep this video like real kind of like casual. I don't have a lot necessarily to talk about in this video, so it could potentially be a bit of a shorter one, but I feel like my life has just been constantly changing this year right from the get-go, really. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys and kind of just explain what's going on. And I know I've talked a little bit about our timeline of life in my couples Q&A with Phil, so if you missed that video then I'll leave that down below and in the eye because we briefly touched on it. Without further ado, let's get chatting. So yeah, I've written a list on my phone, so if I'm looking down then that's why. The first thing that I wrote down that I wanted to talk with you guys about is something very exciting. I think it was like the first Saturday in January potentially, and that is that Phil and I both became Christians. I am planning on doing a whole faith story time video and Q&A. I'm actually about to film it after I've filmed this video. In short, basically, I thought I was a Christian growing up. Turns out I wasn't, and then I kind of went away from faith for a really long time, and then last year Phil and I started going back to church, and then beginning of this year we both became Christians. So yeah, that is a very exciting thing for us, but it also meant that like everything in our life pretty much changed from that moment on, including like our timeline of when we were planning on doing things, our wedding date, like everything kind of changed. I feel more confident now with how everything is going, Lord willing, obviously. Very exciting time, and I know that the Lord has got amazing things in store for us this year, and so far I've noticed like my life has just been so much better. It's really hard to explain, but it was one of the best decisions I think I've ever made. And yeah, I'm excited to see what the Lord has in store for us in the future, as a couple and as individuals as well. So the next thing that I wanted to talk with you guys about, again, is another big thing, and that is that I changed my job. Basically, in short, I had been working in hairdressing for 2 years, had a month off, and then I went into my job in hospitality, which I worked at for 2 years, and then this year I decided that I wanted a change of job. A lot of people that I got along with in my cafe had left. Obviously that's not just a reason for me to be like, right, I want to leave as well, because like all my friends are leaving. It was just starting to kind of change a vibe, and it was half an hour away from where I live, so I was spending an hour in the car each day going back and forth from home and my job. Obviously my dance is half an hour away as well, and so is my nails, like where I get my nails done. So like if I had those on days, sometimes I'd have to be driving back and forth like a few times a day. I was spending a lot of time in the car, and I was spending a lot of money on petrol each week going back and forth, so I really wanted to try and cut that in half, both with the money side of it and the time side of it, obviously because I am planning a wedding at the moment, so I wanted my extra time and money to be going into that rather than to my job that was half an hour away. And I just felt like I needed a change of scene. I was at the point where like I started off in the cafe as like a front of house waitress, and then I progressed up to making cold drinks after about 8 months, and then after about a year being there I became a full-time barista, and then obviously the only kind of thing up from being a full-time barista was being manager. And because Phil and I are planning on moving, again I'll touch on that a little bit later in the video, I didn't want to become a manager just to be there for like, I don't know, a year and a bit and then leave. I didn't feel like it was right. There was nothing wrong with my boss. I loved my boss and I loved my manager. I just felt like it was time for a change. So yeah, I worked at the coffee club. I know I never said on here, but yeah, I worked at the coffee club for 2 years, and now I have a new job. So my new job is about 15 minutes away from where I live, which is perfect. I'm only spending like half an hour in the car each day compared to an hour back and forth. It is still in hospitality, but it is a kind of a step up from where I was working before. So I've only been there for, at this point I've been there for just over a week. So they had me on food running for a week, and this coming week I'm getting trained on the floor, which is great. So I'm starting to like progress and grow, which I really thrive on. I thrive on like growth throughout my job, and I constantly like to be like challenged and worked really hard, and I just felt I wasn't getting that at my old jobs. God provided me with a new job, which was great, and my workmates are really nice, my boss is really cool, my manager's really cool, which is really awesome. And I still get to have Sundays off as well, which was a thing that I had been kind of praying about, was that I'd find a job that would give me Sundays off and that like I could pay the bills. I'm on the same rate that I was at the cafe now, which is great. So I'm still going to be earning about the same kind of money. I'm still doing the same kind of hours this week. At least I was doing the same hours, more or less. There are like a few dinner shifts, which I'm not used to, but I really enjoy it. That was a big thing that kind of happened, but so far so good, and I was so excited for a change. The next thing that happened was quite an intense thing. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, then you would already know this. A couple of weeks into the start of January, Phil's dad had a heart attack. He is okay, he did survive. He's quite a healthy dude, so it just kind of came out of nowhere, and it came at like the worst time. Like, I had put my job resignation in on the Saturday. I had 2 weeks left to work, and it was that week after I put my resignation in that Phil's dad had a heart attack. So I got a call from Phil at work to say that his dad had a heart attack, had been flown from Taranaki to the Waikato, and so I came home and we just dropped everything and we went. We didn't even pack a bag, we didn't pack anything. Phil was just stressed and shock, and we just drove straight to the Waikato. Obviously that was a big shock to the system. It was very stressful, obviously, because I was in the process of changing jobs. We were stressing about Phil's dad. We were worried because we didn't have anywhere to we didn't have anywhere planned to stay, and we didn't know how long we were going to be there. We didn't know if we were going to be there overnight. It was just all very stressful, but we got to the Waikato safely. Phil's dad was okay. He ended up having 2 surgeries, so when we were driving up he was in surgery. We got there like 10 minutes before he was coming out of surgery, so we were there on the Monday, Tuesday, and then I left the decision up to Phil on whether he wanted to stay up there or come home. And Phil wanted to come home, so we came home. Obviously his dad was real like chatty, he was awake, he just seemed his normal self, so I think that's why Phil wanted to come home rather than stay. But yeah, he ended up being in the Waikato until Friday, and he got discharged on Friday. He had a second surgery on Thursday, and now he's fine. That was pretty stressful. We ended up staying with my nan and papa because they live in the Waikato, so luckily they were home, so I messaged them up and they let Phil and I stay with them. We had to buy everything. Like, we just went to Kmart and bought everything that we needed for like 2 days in the Waikato. That was a very unplanned, stressful thing, but everybody got through it. We're all okay. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that that happened, because I did put a thing on my Instagram and a lot of you guys are worried because you thought it was me or Phil that were in hospital. It wasn't us, it was his dad, but it was still very scary and stressful. And then kind of like the last thing I wanted to talk through before I go through like the whole timeline that we've got planned is that Phil's moved out. Before you all stress and freak out and think we've broken up, I want to make it clear that we have not broken up. Phil has simply moved out because of us both becoming Christians. If you're not familiar with Christianity, then you won't know, but the kind of like, I don't want to say the rule because it's not like a rule in a way, it's just kind of more of like a guideline. We'll call it a guideline because rule sounds too intense. Basically, the guidelines for Christian relationships is that you're not supposed to live together before you're married, and then once you get married, that's kind of like when like 2 people kind of come together, and then both of you kind of take your lives, combine it, and then you move in and you kind of do things together. We moved in together after 6 months of dating, and we've been together for 3 years and 2 months at the end of this month. So we've been living together for like over 2 years. So it is a big adjustment not having him here. He isn't actually that far away from me. He's moved into a guy from church's house because he had like a 3-bedroom house and he was renting out rooms in that house. So Phil, he moved out last week. Basically, he's taken pretty much all of his stuff. Some of his stuff is still here, like our furniture is still here, but he's taken all of his clothes, all of his books. He's going to be taking the computer in the next couple of weeks. I'm still getting his laptop, so he's leaving his laptop here for me, which is great because it means I can still edit. So yeah, he's only about 10 minutes away in the car, which is fine. He comes around here like pretty much every day without fail. Like, we still do most things together. It's just basically that like He doesn't sleep here. But yeah, it's not because we've broken up, it's not because we're fighting or anything, it's simply just because of faith reasons. Once we get married, then he will come back here and he'll move all his stuff back here, and then he'll continue living here. So obviously we're still keeping the apartment. So the apartment now is basically mine. We are still going halves on all the bills here, and then he's just covering what he needs to at this guy from church's house. It does feel weird not having his stuff here, but I am gonna do like a whole kind of like making the apartment mine kind of video, but I don't know when that will be up because there's like a few things that I still need to buy to make it kind of mine, and I kind of want to rearrange a few things. So yeah, I'll get Phil to help me with some of those things. But yeah, for now I'm staying here, Phil is staying at the other place, but we still see each other like all the time. So we're getting married next year, so it's not too long to have to do this. It definitely has not been easy, but I've adjusted to it better than I thought I would, but I think that's purely because of having faith. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I know you guys will probably have a million trillion questions. I can do like a whole Q&A if you guys want to see another Q&A like later down the track. I know this is kind of a lot that I'm kind of throwing at you guys right now. So now let's speak on the timeline a little bit of how things are going, because I feel like things are kind of been a bit all over the place. I do change my mind a lot of the time. Now I'm very set on how things are going. I kind of am going to talk about our original timeline and then the timeline that we've kind of got now. I can't even remember when I started talking about like moving in vlogs. It was kind of like around COVID time that Phil and I came up with a timeline. So keep in mind, at this point we were not Christians. Our plan was, it was actually that we were going to move this year. So we were going to move halfway through this year to Auckland. I was going to start uni next year. Phil was going to work, and then 2023 we were going to come back and have our wedding, and then after that we were going to go back up to Auckland. So we were going to have our wedding here just because it's a beautiful place to get married. So yeah, we were going to try and plan things from abroad. We were either going to have a baby like this year or after the wedding. It just really depended on things, obviously. So yeah, I think that was kind of the original timeline that we had. But then we obviously started going back to church, and church kind of changed a lot for us. We had a meeting with our pastor and just kind of explained we were thinking about becoming Christians and we weren't sure how that worked with our whole timeline of events, and then he suggested that we push our wedding forward. So we originally pushed it forward to this year April, but because of COVID still being around and it being very short notice, I did not want to plan a wedding in that short time. We had that month for probably like a couple months that we were going to get married on that at that point, but then it was too stressful and I was still too worried about COVID, so I thought no, we're going to push it back one more year. So yeah, we were going to plan to get married in April, and then we were going to move pretty much straight after that, and that would have been this year. So this is the kind of timeline we're working with at the moment. Lord willing, it all goes ahead and hopefully COVID doesn't come back and throw a curveball. It could change, obviously, depending on what happens with the world. Nothing is kind of set in stone at the moment. We have started booking things for our wedding, so we're kind of just now hoping and praying and having faith that it will all go ahead. The kind of timeline that we're working with at the moment, obviously Phil has moved out and I'm just gonna work and Phil's gonna work up until we get married next year. So I'm not gonna say our exact wedding date just because I do want to keep it more of a surprise. I might reveal it like maybe a week or two out from our actual wedding, or I might keep it a surprise and then just do like a surprise post on Instagram when we get married. I'm not sure, I haven't decided yet. But we are planning on getting married early next year. So that's all I'm going to give you on the kind of timeline that we're planning. And then we're planning on going on our honeymoon. Again, we've got ideas on the honeymoon, but I'm not gonna say too much more until it's all confirmed. We're kind of looking at moving to Auckland, so we are still looking at moving to Auckland, but we're kind of looking to move maybe like early June, possibly July. Again, it will all depend on if we find something that is right for us. So at the moment we are still looking at renting when we move away, just so that we can save up a little bit more to actually buy a decent house, because if you're familiar with New Zealand then you'll know that Auckland is like the most expensive place to live and house prices up there are through the roof. So we're just going to continue saving a bit longer. We aren't sure whether we're going to have a baby first or whether I'm going to go to uni first. So the way that we're kind of working it at the moment is that obviously we'll get married 2022, we'll move halfway through 2022, and then maybe like we're either thinking 6 months to a year after the wedding we'll start trying for a baby. Again, it could change depending on if Phil and I want more time for just the two of us, or whether we're ready to kind of like settle down and have kids, because obviously like it is a big deal having a baby, but we both want kids, so that's great. But then if I get pregnant easily, then we've kind of made it so that I will go to uni once they hit daycare, and I'll just do the uni hours in line with what the daycare hours are. But if I struggle to fall pregnant, then I'll go to uni first and then we'll have a baby afterwards. So that kind of part is still a bit like foggy at the moment. So at the moment we're only kind of planning like the wedding, the honeymoon and the move. I feel a lot happier with that timeline. It makes more sense to plan the wedding here while we're still living here and we've got access to a whole heap of different things. Getting married will kind of be like the last thing that is here for Phil and I. He'll move back in, so we'll like start our life as McMillans, because that's Phil's last name, and we'll start that like in Auckland. That's kind of the plan. Hopefully that all kind of makes sense. But yeah, I think that's everything I kind of wanted to talk with you guys about. Again, it could change depending on what happens with COVID. Obviously, if we go into another lockdown, depending when that is, our wedding could be pushed later, or our move could be pushed later if we go into lockdown after our wedding. We just really don't know. So at the moment, we're just kind of planning as if everything is going to be fine. And obviously, if the Lord allows it to be that way, if he wants it to be that way. But yeah, I'm feeling much more confident about this timeline. It makes a lot more sense in my head. And yeah, it definitely gets me excited for the future. I really hope you guys enjoyed this more like chatty, chill, kind of like life updates video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Please make sure to turn on the notifications and check out my social media. It's always linked down below in the description box. And like I said, if you guys do want me to do like a Q&A and you guys can ask questions, because I feel like there'll be heaps, let me know in the comments and I'll jump on that video as soon as I can. That's everything that I wanted to update you guys on. Hopefully we're all kind of now on the same page with everything. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!